I found that I was drawn to what is possible here. So living in the Yukon, there's lots of mountains that hadn't been climbed and rivers that had not been descended that were unexplored, basically, right? And so I could have stuck to the one thing, climbing a certain peak and guiding people on a certain peak, but I wasn't drawn to, the system, systematization. I was drawn to exploration. So I ended up guiding people on all sorts of first descents of rivers and first descents of mountains. And then then clients would come to me and say, well, now we'd like you to guide us in on Everest. We'd like you to, to take us to the North Pole. So that whole sort of what's next, what is possible was in some ways the theme in for many years in my guiding.
Well, that set you apart because you can find a million guides that only stick to a certain path, I'm sure. I've never
Hmm.
actually sought out a mountain guide or anything, but I can
Yes.
imagine that there's a lot of people that do things the way that everybody else does. And I love that you stuck to what it is that you found interesting. And then
Hmm.
all of the right people just appeared.
Yes. Yeah. And then this is, if we're following the story, we've now sort of now I'm very successful in the mountaineering world and expedition world, and I'm even guiding, billionaires and millionaires, people like Sir Edmund Hillary, Neil Armstrong, people like that.
You guys, this is one of my favorite episodes ever. Today's episode is one of those conversations that don't just inspire, they recalibrate you. It has stuck with me every day, and it was such a nice surprise. I'm a busy mom, and I honestly was not fully prepared on how awesome this interview was going to be and how inspiring Martin Stephen Williams was going to be. So I can't wait for you to listen to the rest of this episode. It is truly one of my favorites. Martin has lived a life most people couldn't even imagine, let alone choose. He's led expeditions to the North Pole, the South Pole, Mount Everest, crossed Antarctica under human power, founded the first airline on the continent of Antarctica, and then, just when the world would expect him to keep conquering mountains, he turned inward. He went to spend years in India studying meditation, yoga, and enlightenment, teaching the very thing that has been at the heart of every expedition he's ever led: human potential. This conversation really isn't about mountains, though. It's about what happens when you stop living on autopilot and start asking a powerful question: what's next? I'm so borrowing this from him. If you've ever felt like there must be more purpose, more alignment, more life, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Good morning, my loves. Today on the podcast, I have Martin Williams. He is here to share with us the ways in which he is living a life that he loves, designing a life from intention instead of a life on autopilot. He's been traveling the world, and I can't wait to hear all of your stories, or at least a few of them, Martin. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about how you ended up here on my show? Like brought you what brought you here? What attracted you to the show?
In looking around, of what's making a difference in the world, people are making a certain people are making a difference in the world, and the contents of your show fits totally in with my perspective on life. The whole idea of, we are the creators of our life and therefore the designers of our life, and the
Mm,
whole idea of just of being intentional and understanding that often in life, we're functioning from childhood programming and childhood perceptions and societal perceptions that are actually not optimal, right? And
yeah.
so as we pick our way through these and start looking at them through different lenses, we go, oh, that's not optimal. What can I do about that, right?
Yeah, bringing awareness to what programs we even have running. I think it takes a bit for us to get to a point in our life when we realize that, oh, there's some subconscious program that's happening that's causing me to live a certain way, think a certain way, show up in relationships or do business in a certain way. So, what was your first kind of awareness?
Hmm. I guess it was even age 12 and 13. I would go out in nature, come back, and I was in Liverpool, England. It's a very dirty, smelly city. And I'd be out in nature and feeling very, alive and connected, and even in bad weather, having a great time. And come back and get on the bus. And I'd look down the bus at 40 people with almost like dull, gray-looking faces and thinking, is this life? Is this is there more to life than this? So then that really started my exploration in some ways of just what is possible, what is more, and I guess I have a strong sense of curiosity, so that led me then to go out in nature more, to start and ultimately then to lead expeditions around the world.
I love that. And yeah, you painted a very perfect picture of the bus and everybody's kind of doom and gloom and just living their life on repeat. Like every day is the same. There's not a lot of life in their life. And
Hmm.
how amazing that you were only 13, 12 or 13 when you had that realization. I think it takes a lot of people a lot longer than that to come to that point.
Yeah, again, yeah, I feel very lucky to have. See, I don't think it was just, it was almost like, this is not what I want. What do I want? So it wasn't the big realization of just, I'm going to redesign my life, but it was
Yeah,
more, I don't want that, right? What
right.
can I do to not go there? How can I avoid that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times we learn by what we don't want, what we
Hmm.
don't prefer. We try all the things and figure out what doesn't fit. If you're familiar with human design, we didn't talk about that beforehand, but I'm a manifesting generator and my profile is a 3-5, and that means I'm the great life experimenter.
Ah.
So I am literally designed to try all the things and figure out what doesn't work, which can be kind of annoying.
Mhm.
But it does lead to that awareness, right? And
Mhm.
that's how we figure out what we don't want. So, as a 13-year-old, you discover that you don't want that life of the
Mhm.
person on the bus. Take me through some of your next steps. Like, what was your next, big move, I guess?
So then by age 16 now, I've gone with my family to the Alps and I see mountains and mountain guides. And I say to my dad, I want to become a mountain guide. And he says, no, 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 that's not possible. You know, it's born into a family, the Swiss guides, that's the father of the son, or the Austrian guides. It's not possible. But this is the whole idea of manifestation, is that having set that as my intention, by age 23, I've now been climbing around the world, done different things, and I'm in the Yukon, northern Canada, and I get a phone call from a company saying, we want you to work as a mountain guide for us, right? And
Nice.
so I guess if applying that to life is that if we have an idea, have an intention, as long as we hang on to it, the path, it can be this wild, highly illogical, circuitous, so, I didn't say I wanted to become a mountain guide in Switzerland, right? I just said guide, right? And so circumstances or just my intentionality ended up, it happened, but in the most, there's not no logic in the pathway, put it that way. And I see that throughout my life. Numerous times I've set an intention and then the pathway has been all over the place to get there, but arriving there.
hmm Would you say you followed your whispers down the path, or how were you guided? Did you fight your path at all?
So, I I know strongly that intuition has been guiding me, and it can come up with super, literally voices or dreams, things like that, like, full on, full on in my face, don't do that, do this, right? Experiences. And then other times, it's because in the mountains, what I realized is that as I went out in as a kid, going out age 13, 14, 15 into the mountains of Wales, I wanted to get out in the mountains. I'd be heading off, and it was like a little expedition, right? And so I'm out there, but in some ways, this is a metaphor for life too, the whole idea of an expedition. So I wouldn't quite know where I was going to end up, wouldn't know where I was going to sleep. And I'd often end up figuring it out as I went along. But it was a joyous figuring out. It
Mm,
was, oh, wow, there's a bridge here. I can sleep underneath the bridge tonight when it's raining, you know.
mm.
And so I realized that now looking back, I could see that my intuitive awareness was starting to even tune in there. Be walking down, I feel drawn to look around that corner, not that corner. And that corner has the bridge, right? So I realized that the whole idea of when we ex when we step into situations that require us to explore, then we tend to use more of our senses. We move beyond logic, and we employ other levels of consciousness to decide what to do, you know?
Oh, I love that. Yes, we are divinely guided in so many different ways, and oftentimes we don't realize it. But I love that you bring up the sense of adventure, and when you follow, you said it differently, but basically when you follow your joy, when you follow what your passion is or what lights you up in any sort of way,
Hmm.
you are divinely guided to your intention, to your dream.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And it can be that the circumstances, so recently someone is asking me about, discipline and hard work. And I say, well, I've always functioned from enthusiasm. And hard work, to me, I've never worked hard, but I've done lots of lots of wild things, which from some lenses would look like hard work, but to me it was never hard work because the enthusiasm was the drive. I was naturally caught up in the endeavor, right?
Yeah. Well, they say you'll never work a day in your life if you do what you love, right? So
That's right.
that's
Yes, that's
exactly
right.
what you
Exactly.
did.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you got a phone call about being a mountain guide, and then what happened?
So then I started guiding and I found that I was drawn to what is possible here. So living in the Yukon, there's lots of mountains that hadn't been climbed and rivers that had not been descended that were unexplored, basically, right? And so I could have stuck to the one thing, climbing a certain peak and guiding people on a certain peak, but I wasn't drawn to the system, systematization. I was drawn to exploration. So I ended up guiding people on all sorts of first descents of rivers and first descents of mountains. And then then clients would come to me and say, well, now we'd like you to guide us on Everest. We'd like you to, to take us to the North Pole. So that whole sort of what's next, what is possible was in some ways the theme in for many years in my guiding,
Well, that set you apart because you can find a million guides that only stick to a certain path, I'm sure. I've never
Hmm.
actually sought out a mountain guide or anything, but I can
Yes.
imagine that there's a lot of people that do things the way that everybody else does. And I love that you stuck to what it is that you found interesting. And then
Hmm.
all of the right people just appeared.
Yes. Yeah. And then if we're following the story, now I'm very successful in the mountaineering world and expedition world, and I'm even guiding, billionaires and millionaires, people like Sir Edmund Hillary, Neil Armstrong, people like that I worked with, right?
Oh, wow. Did you
And
call
so
your dad and say, hey, guess what?
that's right. Yes, yeah. And but then I was wondering, well, what's next? And so one of the things that happened is a friend of mine I was staying with said, I know you're after a business meeting. I have some insights about your business partners. And she reeled off uh, insights about these partners that were just totally on the money. And I said, well, where's this coming from? And she said, well, I'm taking a course in psychic awareness. I said,
Mm.
oh, very interesting. And she told me more. I said, okay, so sign me up. I want to check this out. So sign me up for 5 different psychics and media and channelers over the next 5 days, and I'm going to check this out, right?
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I approached it from a very just, hey, what is this,
Yeah,
And
curiosity.
and every one of them was right on in different ways. So
Mm.
then that then started me. again, the whole idea of what's next, that was sort of, that then started me exploring that journey too, you know?
I love that question. What's next? Because that's the explorer energy, the
Hmm.
adventure energy, the life energy, instead of,
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, instead of, maybe sometimes people might be, oh, I'm not happy with this, or I want it to look a certain way, and they come up with an idea in their mind of how things are going to play out, and then they're so hooked into the outcome that they
Hmm.
limit themselves from all the possibilities.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Like being able to have this like a buffet, and then
Hmm.
you come in and say, no, I want at McDonald's or something. And so
Hmm.
you don't
Hmm.
even realize that you have this whole plethora of choices to choose from when you live that way. And so I love the question, what's next? That is a really
Hmm.
good kind of mantra to live by.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And I also see that, you know, that whole idea of focusing on a goal, while we want to focus on a goal, I realize that this is, you know, again, I'm interested in your comment about this, but if we're disappointed in the goal, often I've realized now in my life experience, if we fully enjoyed the journey, if we've been present all the way on the journey, we miss the goal, it's no big deal because we've had a beautiful journey, right? But if
Exactly.
if we're focused on the goal and get there and are disappointed, we haven't been enjoying the journey as much as we could.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's where I check in with my 80-year-old self all the time.
Oh,
And
sweet.
She
Yeah.
she usually is she's a feisty little lady, and
Mm,
she takes no shit, and she gets what she wants, and she's usually reminding me to go for it, right?
mhm, mhm.
And so I like that you talked about, now I lost my train of thought.
The
But
aspect of
basically,
disappointment and
yeah,
not,
the
yeah.
disappointment. She's
Mm,
the one that's reminding me to live in the moment, to be present,
mhm. I
and to
see.
unhook from the outcome, and to
Yes. Yeah.
enjoy the ride. So,
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah. Actually, there's one story that I'd like to share about that one. So on Everest, also I've been guiding around the world, you know, and some clients came to me and said, we want you to take us to Everest and guide on Everest. And this was in the early 90s, and it wasn't guided very often then, or hardly at all. And so we pulled three guides together, and the guides were really doing all the logistics and all the, managing the Sherpas and things like that. And so some of the clients got to the summit, and then it was my turn. I was heading up this face at night on my own when all of a sudden I got diarrhea and vomiting.
Oh no.
And at first I was unfortunately it was a one-piece climbing suit, a bad choice of clothing,
Ugh.
and so I had to unzip that, and then but I was determined to go on. Determination came up, and I was determined. I went a bit higher and a bit higher, and eventually I started vomiting again. Then I sat down on the snow, and in that moment, I looked around, and the stars were out, and I was on my own. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous place, and I just started yahooing. I fell into bliss, basically. I just fell into joy,
Mm,
and the disappointment didn't come up, but instead I was just in an ecstatic space. And
mhm,
so I cleaned myself up and went down the mountain, all the way down the mountain. I was just so struck by the beauty. And I guess I'd been so focused on the goal that I hadn't been aware of the beauty. And all of a sudden it's like the beauty is right there. And I come back to the tent and my buddies are there and they're saying, you must be so disappointed. I'm saying, no, I'm just there was so
Grateful.
much beauty.
Mm,
And that then really started me on a quest then of, so if that can happen to me, can I can I make it happen more often? And I like this.
maybe minus the sickness, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Let's move off the diarrhea and vomiting to the
Yeah.
side and let's see if we can I handle this. And so that then led me on a journey of what's possible in this realm,
Mm, mm.
which is the realm that you dabble in so much.
Yeah, yeah. What's possible? What's next? Living from possibilities instead of limitations. It's like a childlike lens. If we can live from a
That's
childlike
right. Yes.
lens, I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
we'd be so much better off. And it would be really awesome if we could skip the conditioning, like the part where your dad said, that'll never happen to you. I
Hmm.
hope
Hmm.
that now going forward, we're as this next level of human, I think we are getting to be a little bit more aware and conscious of like not limiting our children and saying things like that, but it still
Hmm.
happens, you know?
Hmm.
And if we can get back into that childlike curiosity and the childlike wonder and adventure, I think that's when we are going to just kind of stumble into our purpose.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I agree totally. Yeah, beautifully said, actually.
So, what was your greatest adventure?
Oh, good question. There's many. So in some ways, if I just check in, it's now, right? Chatting with you is my greatest adventure, right?
Oh, thank you. I'm very honored.
And but then if I look at it from, what memories, the ones that one that stands out is so the highest peak in so there's seven continents, right? And there's seven summits. And so in the climbing world, there's all these goals, right? And one of the goals is to do the highest peak on each continent.
Mm,
And one continent is Australasia, and the highest peak there is 17,000 feet. And it's in Indonesia. It's super difficult to get to because of permissions. It's in, it's in very remote jungle, but it has a 3,000-foot rock climb on it and it's quite difficult.
wow.
So we finally get a permit to get in there. We get in there and we hike into the base of the mountain and we can see this 3,000 feet of rock and it looks really beautiful. And then it starts snowing and it snows for 2 days. And now we have 3 feet of snow over everything and the tents are collapsing. One of the people on the expedition says, he was a doctor from Switzerland. He said, I've come all this way. I have to go back home to my medical practice. Can't we at least have a look? Myself and the other guide said, there's no way, there's not even, don't, let's not bother. And he said, no, no, please, please, please. So we said, okay, for you, we'll go and look, right? So we head off, we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning in the dark, and we're out there in the headlamps tromping through the snow. And we get to the foot of the mountain. And, the first bit, we can find a hold here and a hold there. So the whole day is this magical journey of just, we started off saying there's absolutely zero chance, right? But lo and behold, there was a chance, and lo and behold, there was a hold here and a foothold there, and it's steep and it's wild, but it just keeps on unfolding just around the next corner, and so by mid-afternoon we end up on the summit, and it's just, oh wow, wow, isn't
That's
that ex
beautiful.
isn't that extraordinary? One of those sorts of yeah.
Mm, love it.
Hmm.
Have you written any books?
Actually, I have, yes, which has lots of these stories in.
Awesome.
And yeah, so actually, I have it right here, and it's called Sure, Let's Go, and to the ends of the earth and a bit
Oh,
past that. Oh,
we
sorry, I just
lost
missed.
your camera.
Yeah, I think I bumped
Here
it.
we are.
Yeah, Sure, Let's Go to the ends of the earth and a bit past that.
Oh, I like that.
Hmm. And the bit past that is about the more sort of esoteric aspect of life, Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
I love it. Now, the picture behind you, I'm noticing how beautiful that is. Is that a photo you took, or is that just a canvas that you find beautiful?
It's a canvas I find beautiful because it has so many places I resonate with. So when I look at it, I can see, the northern Yukon over there. I can see the Himalayas. I can see the mountains in Patagonia over there. So it's like it's a collage. It's a collage of so many mountains where I've spent time.
Wow.
Mhm.
So a lifetime of mountain climbing and meeting some amazing people, I would imagine, taking in Earth's beauty. I like to say that Earth is, or that nature is a hack. Like it's the
Mhm.
easiest way to feel better, the easiest way to get a new idea, the easiest way to like quiet your mind and regulate your nervous system. I'm curious to hear what you have to say along those lines or to that.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I totally agree. And I recommend to everybody, you know, get outside, once or twice a day if at all possible. And when people, because I think I was so having done these adventures, I then went off to India, became a monk for 10 years in India, right?
Wow.
And so I saw what we were doing in India in the meditation practices very similar to what we were doing on expeditions. So now when people come to me asking about meditation, I'm saying, well, you can a formal meditation practice is great. And you can also, when you're going for a walk, you can meditate. If you're in the gym, you can meditate there. And it's very easy just a couple of slight subtle changes and you're in a meditative space, and you're accessing the sort of things you speak about, the relaxation, all that. I have so many qualities that, as you described, nature brings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think w- it doesn't have to be so rigid. It doesn't have to be sitting still. It doesn't have to be being quiet or completely silent. It can be
Hmm.
walking. And I love that you bring that up because yeah, that is for sure. And I think that is part of like going on a walk in nature. I don't take my phone. I don't wear earbuds or play music or anything because I want to
Hmm.
be so present with nature. And you're right. It's like a walking meditation and it's an appointment with God, I say, because
Hmm.
nature's always showing us, like, we don't have to try so hard. Look at how beautiful the world is. Look at how easy things can be. Just a tree losing its leaves.
Hmm.
She doesn't fight it. She doesn't
Hmm.
question why it's happening.
That's right. Yes.
So I think nature has so much to teach us, and I can only imagine the lessons that you learned from nature.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. One lesson that may be super helpful for listeners is that so imagine you're traveling towards the South Pole and it's a 2 month long journey, and every day the wind is blowing and it's -10 to -20, right? So it's you and your thoughts. So it's me and my thoughts, right? And you and your thoughts. And so there you are. And it really boiled down to four types of thoughts. So one thought is the negative one, which is, why did I choose this? What the heck am I doing here? You know,
My dad was right.
Yeah, there's piles of those, right? Or we can also go into daydream, which is, oh, I wish I was back in Hawaii on the beach or wherever with my friends, etc., etc. Then another one is to be totally present with what is, and and even on supposedly blank snow, it looks different when you're totally aware of it, when you're just looking at the snow, the subtleties and sparkles, just like as you describe being out in nature. And so, and then the fourth one is really ideation and creation, and so again, and often I see that comes from a blank space. So we're in the blank space, that's when intuition comes up, which leads to the ideation, which leads to, oh, when I get back home, I'm going to do this with this idea, et cetera, et cetera. So there's really four things, but each one affects what I saw is each one affects our performance. So in life, I found as soon as I went into complain, my my movement forward would drop by about 20%, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you think about this in life, as soon as we're in complaint, we're less effective. If I'm in daydream, my performance drops by about 10. I'm still not fully effective, but I'm not fully effective. When I'm present, that's when I'm most effective. Or when I'm in the intuitive space, then literally there's a spring in my step almost.
I love
So,
that. That's
so
so
it's
good.
like, level one, level two, level three, level four.
Mm.
And each one I also see now, each one has these other effects on our health too. So when we're complaining, we're aging faster, et cetera, et cetera. You know.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we're complaining, we're walking, it's like walking through sludge. Nothing really gets solved, no
Hmm.
progress nothing gets created. Our relationships suffer. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna borrow that. That's really good.
Oh, good. Great. Good, good,
Mhm.
good. Good.
And then you brought up blank space. So, in a world right now where we have phones and we're always connected somehow to a device, an Apple Watch or a phone,
Hmm.
and we sometimes we can get caught up thinking that we're relaxing when we're sitting on our phone on the couch and scrolling.
Hmm.
And that is that is still busy work.
Hmm.
That's not blank space.
hmm
So, do you want to elaborate a little bit on blank space and how you've used it and benefited?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think there's a much bigger reset happening in blank space than we think, you know? And, we've mentioned intuition, and I know it's something that you utilize a lot. And the intuition, the more blank space, the louder the intuition. It's like literally we're turning down the volume on our intuition. So our intuition can be screaming at us, don't get in the car today. There's going to be a car crash. But we're so busy we cannot hear it, right? And
Yeah.
that's the danger aspect of intuition. But the intuition is also, directing us in life too. And so again, if we have so much noise we can't hear that, then we're going to be directionless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so
It's
I really see that, the time for blankness and I think work out everybody's different. So work out for you what that is. And for some people, it is a formal sitting meditation. For other people, it can be a walk. But again, we can bring more awareness to we can bring more consciousness to the walk, right? We can because typically as I chat with people, I really see that often the first 5 minutes we're dismantling the day. We're running through, and that's fine. We're rewriting to-do lists, we're reorganizing, we're reviewing. But then after that, it's time to if we keep on doing that, we're typically regurgitating. We're going round and round the wheel, right? So it's
yep.
okay, now I've done a bit of my planning. Now let me move into, you know, me time, which is just me and the environment.
hmm
Mm.
I find that like something will, if I start my walk out like that, where I'm trying to solve a problem or, like you said, go through your to-do list, I find that something kind of jumps out at me, like a rabbit hops into the trail or a
Oh
bird
yeah.
catches my
Oh,
eye.
I see.
And I feel like
Oh,
those
great.
are just God's signs of like, hey, just shut her down.
hmm
This is
hmm
your time to just to have the blank space
hmm
to clear your mind. It's so
Yeah.
important. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of different ways to do it, like meditation, walking. What's your favorite way to create blank space?
So having been a monk and meditated a lot, meditation is one way, but actually where I live, there's some scrambling, so there's an uphill route where, it takes me about 45 minutes to go up this hill, and I'm using my hands and feet. So I'm totally present with the rock, with where my foot is, where my hand is. So I'm very body aware, and the mind, there's no chatter. And typically when I get to the top, then often that's when all of a sudden there's a flood of ideas and and so
Well, that
often,
that kind of matches perfectly with your four levels of thoughts, right?
that's right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, it's almost like because I'm engaged, the mind has to be quiet. So yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
love that.
So, but also, I definitely see that how we set up the day in the morning is super, super important. And And for me, that is really start the day off with laughter and joy. So for a number of years, I would wake up and laugh, just and very deliberately this morning, every day just laugh. And then,
I
and
love
I've
that.
having done it with groups too, we've even done experiments where everybody write down your biggest difficulty, then put in the middle in the middle of the circle. Let's laugh for 5 minutes. Let's pick up the difficulty and look at it. And all of a sudden the difficulty has shifted. What was, would ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how big is this difficult? Oh, the relationship with my brother is, just it's just super difficult, right? And then laugh for a couple of minutes, pick it up, how difficult it, oh, no, it's hardly anything, all of a sudden. So things that are
Take its
difficult,
power away.
that's right, yes, yeah. And so literally our perceptions can morph very rapidly, right?
Mm, I
Yeah,
love that. Yeah, a lot of times it's just a reframe that we need to get us out
that's
of
right,
our
yes.
own way.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't tried laughter in the morning. That's a good one. I'm gonna try that. I immediately thought of like the Sunday morning cartoons and the newspapers, like
Hmm.
I don't know
That's
if
right.
it's
Yes,
still a thing, but
exactly. Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe mornings, I call them mornings are for me. Like I try to meditate or journal, empty my mind out,
Mm.
move my body. It's really cold here. I'm in Wisconsin and it's been like negative 27.
Oh, I
Um,
see. Yes. Yeah.
so walking is not really my favorite thing to do when it's this cold
Hmm.
outside, but it's still nice to be outside.
Yeah. And another thing on that whole idea of perceptual shift, I was looking at it from the lens through the lens of when we're watching, say, a sporting game, and our team is losing, and we'll be ooh, then the team scores, hooray! And so we're shifting state very rapidly. But in life, we tend to say, oh, I've been sad for months, or this is the way I am, you know? But so everybody listening to this, my suggestion is start questioning that and asking, can I shift state, or shift perception more rapidly than I'm doing currently, you know?
Yeah. And not getting so hooked into an emotion as an identity. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be your identity. It's just an
That's right,
emotion.
yes.
And
Yes,
we can witness it and
that's right.
like a passing cloud, allow it to
Yes.
just go by.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to define who you are.
Hmm. Yes. No, because I now work as a coach, I see that as being so, so important. And I'll give you sort of my take on it. Say somebody who's typically, if somebody has a pattern of anger, they can, they're also hard on themselves when they're angry. So they'll get angry, then they'll get really judgmental. But
Mhm.
as you say, to look upon it as, oh, an emotion, and be the observer of them in the long term. One can be the observer of oneself as just pure consciousness observing the personality being in anger, right?
Right,
And that then softens, then it's just, oh, it's, this is not me, this is not the ultimate me, this is a part of my personality playing out, right?
right, right,
And then we can start to manipulate it. It gives us freedom to work with it, or freedom to ask for help, or freedom to get coaching, or see other people or do breath work on it, all these things, right?
right.
Yes.
Emotions are just energy in motion, and they're like clues to help us unlock the next thing.
That's right. Exactly. That's so well. Yeah, exactly. I love that. They are clues to help us unlock the next step. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Thinking that they're a problem is the only problem. Um,
Hmm.
and that I think that's true with any kind of outcome that we don't desire, right? So things
Hmm.
didn't work out the way you thought they were going to with this relationship or this circumstance or this plan. And instead of like falling into poor me, things don't work out for me, look at it as redirection and that there's a sign that something better is on its way to you.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. That's where again, coming back to that explorer, that was, if we look at, that was an avenue that ended up, that avenue is not there anymore, right? So, but there's other avenues, right? There's, sort of looking at the map and where do I want to go to? There's 1,000 ways to get there, right?
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that what we are meant for will find us, whether
Hmm.
we follow our path and we are divinely led, or we are in resistance and fighting our way there. That's
That's
just the
right.
long way around, right? So
That's right.
we're going to get there no matter what. If it's our dream,
Yes.
our dream and God's will for us is one and the same. It's just a matter, are you going to fight tooth and nail against, you know,
Hmm.
being led, or are you going to just be in flow?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I just one other, that brings up a story, if you don't mind. Do you mind me
Of
to
course.
sort of dive in? Okay. So I've done all these expeditions, I was wondering, well, what's next? And then I had a dream that I was on a train and the train was being attacked by soldiers. And at first I felt myself going to fear, but then the fear subsided and I went and told the soldiers, no, 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 you don't have to be controlled this way. It's almost like a classic peace dream, right? And then next morning, all of a sudden, this idea came that of all the expeditions that had been done, nobody had ever gone from the North Pole to the South Pole, which is like 25,000 miles, under human power. And oh wow, and it's like, oh, that's my next project, right? And but I realized I didn't have to go out and get, explorers of my own caliber, my buddies, etc. I realized that I could take young people as long as they have a burning passion to explore, to look at their potential, train them, and then do the journey with them. So I chose 8 young people from around the world, most of whom had zero experience, but were passionate about this journey and this project. Brought them together, trained them 6 weeks, and then we did the journey over 9 months, and we ended up. And because again, this is the more sort of bit wild stuff. This is right around the time of the millennium, right? And so the South Pole is the first place in the world to enter the next millennium. So another
Mm.
1,000 years, right?
Yes.
So I aim to be there for December 31st. Right?
Oh, wow.
And we got there 5 hours on December 31st, 5 hours before the new millennium.
Oh, wow. That is
Mhm.
so cool. That is so cool. How did you choose the people that you took on your expedition?
I contacted various explorer buddies and asked them, this is what I'm looking for. And
Okay.
then in Canada, because I was living in Canada at the time, I put it out in the sort of, I publicized it. And so I had a few hundred applications. I brought the best 20 young people together and said, I want you to select one of you who to go on this journey. And so over 4 days, I'm going to, put you through hell. And then at the end of it, you'll select the one. But what
Wow.
happened there is that at the end of it, I had a team of, again, my very accomplished explorers there. And we said, we think, that person is the best. He's on the Prime Minister's Advisory Committee on the Environment. He's well spoken. He's et cetera, et cetera. And the young people, they picked somebody quite different. And the young people picked was the person who was at the back of the line, constantly helping people.
Oh, fascinating. I
And
love
so
that.
it was so interesting that, the adults were coming from this more sort of egoic thing of what works for the media and blah, blah, blah. And the
Yep.
young people were coming from their hearts of just, this person really,
That is
is,
beautiful
yeah,
symbolism.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at what a difference in the choice. I mean, what feels better to choose? The one that's helping and the heart-based choice versus what looks
Hmm.
good to the media. And
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
that's such a
Yeah.
turnoff. Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
That's a good story. Okay, and you mentioned you coach people. So tell me how you coach people and who.
Oh, okay. So right now I'm working for a couple of different companies, working with executives, but I approach my coaching is really, work is 45, it could be up to 40% of your life. If you want to live a fulfilling life, you ideally want to live a fulfilling work and life. And
Mm.
so what is stopping you being fulfilled at work? And how do we move into fulfillment at work? And
Mm.
so often it's things like, you know, and because I know you agree with this sort of thing as well, or you're really onto this sort of thing, how we start the day off, right? Is super important for the work as well as home. How we end the work, transition into home. If we're carrying work into home, we're not fully optimizing the time with our kids, for instance, all sorts of things like that. And then if we're not feeling fulfilled at work, it's often some aspect of communication we haven't communicated with other people, to our leaders, to other team members. And so, so it often ends up being about communication. And if I was to give it a broad brush, I'd really say that it's looking at blank spots on our map of consciousness. So a blank spot would be somebody who says to me, well, once a week when I drive to work, there's traffic and I freak out, And so we start talking about that. And then, well, what are your options? Well, would you like to learn a language? Would you like to play music? And all of a sudden, boom, 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 they come with an idea, hey, I'd love to learn Spanish. So now what turned in from an unconscious pain point, they just shone the light of consciousness on it through conversation with somebody, and the whole thing's disappeared. And now, for the next 20 years, they're, they're going to be enjoying their whatever it is, their Spanish or their music or whatever. So and so I really see that this whole idea of perceptual shift as a concept is super important.
Hmm.
And I know you agree totally with me on this, is that
Yeah. Our
the
thoughts
more
shape our reality.
that's right, yeah, the more we can pick up those little pain points and look at them from another, what is possible in this moment? Oh, and then how do I get there?
Yep.
So I'll give you another example. Somebody was coming to me and saying, well, my life has been full of struggle and named all these struggles, etc. So I said, well, how are you on a scale of one? How are you doing in this moment? And they said, well, seven. Okay, so, and they said, but I was -2, a month ago, right? So I said,
Arguing
so
for it.
in that's right. In the next little while before our next meeting, just look and just start numbering how you're doing. So the next meeting, the person said, well, I was volunteering at a gardening thing and I was a 10. I went for a supper with a friend and I was a 10.
Mm.
And I realized that I haven't been looking through the right lens at what I'm doing in the moment, basically.
Yeah, the mind
And
wants to hide all of that
that's
positivity,
exactly,
and
yes.
it loves to hide any kind of positive change that we're making. So if we are all of a sudden getting up in the morning and we're going for our walk, we're meditating, we're journaling, if we don't consciously ask ourselves, how am I doing now compared to how I was doing beforehand? The mind will just come in there and be like, oh, you're not really making any changes. Nothing's
Yes,
different. What are you wasting your time with?
yes,
So having that awareness to reflect and make your mind find the proof, find
yes,
or
yes.
prove to your mind really that you are making a difference and it is making change is part of the way we shift into a new personality and a deeper awareness, deeper consciousness, all of the.
hmm Yes, I agree totally with you. Yeah, right on the money.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, Martin, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This has been a really amazing conversation. Is there anything that you want to wrap up with?
So, yes, early morning, don't forget if you can laugh or smile or dance, anything you can do to start the day off with high energy. Watch, look at what perceptions am I holding in this moment that are not healthy or helpful, and how can I shift them? And then also, we mentioned nature, and then end up, if you can end up doing some sort of journaling relaxation in the evening too, that makes such a big difference. And
Yeah.
so there's just mountains of beauty to be had with life.
Oh, I love that. Perfect.
Mm.
Mountains and from our mountain guide. Where can people find you or work with you or find your book?
Yeah, that's on my website is enlighteningadventures.com.
Enlighteningadventures.com. I will be sure to put that in the show notes. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. This has been so much fun.
Good, good, good. No, I'm really impressed with what you're doing, and for all the listeners, keep on listening. This will have an effect on you. You listening to this will have an effect on you.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you.
Hey guys, I just want to say thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the things wherever you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, so that we can get the word out and help more people each and every day. Thank you for being here. Love you.